Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. I'm so excited to be here right now with Ajay and Jeremy Popoff from the great band Lit. And these guys have been my friends since we were back in the MTV days. And it was amazing to actually be able to become friends with them and debut their video for My Own Worst Enemy and Miserable on my shows, 120 minutes on MTV. And what an incredible experience it's been in a friendship for decades. So it makes complete sense, guys, that we're going to be on the 90s cruise together. And I couldn't be more excited about it because I feel like it's a group of friends getting back together, hanging out, celebrating music, having a great time. And just because it certainly was one of the greatest times for music. And it was just like there was this there was this real thing that was going on where, people just loved music. Rock and alternative music was at the forefront, and you guys came out swinging. And of course, wrote songs that are now still considered classics and a big part of everyday life. My 24-year-old daughter, I was talking to her about your guys today. She loves the music. She's been a fan. And so I think it's amazing how many generations of people have always loved the band. So can we talk about, guys, tell about when you guys were in Orange County back in like 88 when you started the band, but you tell me a bit about that. Cause AJ, you were drumming at first, right? Like in 88?
I was, I mean, all started in high school. So it was just a matter of like, I started playing drums. Our grandfather was a jazz drummer post World War II. And he was a big influence on us as far as just being around instruments and, whether it was his organ or drums and singing. And so that was the first exposure to an instrument. So I just started learning it. And then I wanted to start a rock band. And Kevin, our bass player today, is, we were going to high school, the same place. And we weren't good at sports, and we wanted to find a way to attract the chicks and find something to do. So we started a rock band, and man, and we've just held it together for decades. It's just so crazy. But really quick, I wanted to hit on what you said. Your intro was incredible. Thank you for that. But the MTV days, man, how lucky we are to have been a part of, like, what I feel was like tail end of a just like the dream when you're a kid and you want to be a rock star, or you want a video on MTV that was so big. We didn't have YouTube and all the other ways people are watching videos. So that was, man, you were just part of that. Like, we made it, and there you were, and we're like, dude, Matt Pinfield. So yeah.
Well, we literally, we went from watching your show, being fans of your show, taping your show,
Yep.
You would like set the VCR and then, go out for the night and pass out flyers or whatever. And then we'd come back and we would, hang out together on like Sunday, and we would watch your show. And then it was like, and then we woke up one day and we're on your show and you're like debuting our video. And we've been asked so many times, especially back in the day, people would ask us questions like, when did you know you made it? Or when did you actually feel like, oh, this is going to go, I think we all go back to that night. I think it was night. I don't know when you recorded it.
I think it was too.
And you just rolled in, and it wasn't just, and everybody that knows you and has ever met you has the same awesome things to say about you. But I just remember the feeling of, we weren't just going in and doing your show and you were just reading notes and going through the motions. Like, you knew more about our band than we did when we walked in for the first time. Anyways, I just want to say that was such a huge thrill for us, and it's always been just awesome to know you and to follow your journey as well. And proud of you, brother, and just stoked. Can't wait to spend time with you on this boat. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Thank you so much, guys, for the incredibly kind words. And that was amazing because when we met, besides like falling in love with your music and when Place in the Sun came out, and then I had Tripping the Light Fantastic. I had, that, which was amazing because, I was always looking for new bands to fall in love with and to promote. So it was one of those things where somebody set up us to have like a dinner or a lunch, and then we were just riffing about rock and roll and music and alternative and punk and things that we loved. And it was great. I remember Jerry talking about Van Halen and, there were so many things that we had conversations about. But
that's one of the things we look forward about going to New York was we get to hang out with Pinfield and go have dinner and just, the stories are just amazing.
It was so great. So to me, you guys, speaking of, for me, and I look at the history of Lit, you guys have, like you've been through a lot of things, and it's like, guys in the bands who have gotten ill that we've lost and different things. But what's so beautiful is the fact that you guys have maintained, what's the core of the original band that why you started the band, because you loved rock and roll and you loved punk music and you loved alternative music as kids, metal, everything really. And that was the cool thing about it. And I just love the fact that you still have that edge, that spirit. Talk to me about, I mean, when you look back now and you're like, wow, it's amazing, that we're going on, 25 years since we had our first RCA album, when Placing This Young came out. And like, I just want to talk to you about, you can answer my question, like, what is that thing besides the fact that your brotherhood, but it's really kept that great edge? Because would you say, well, I want to hear what you have to say. The question's gotten long. Let me just say, what is that thing that just keeps you guys going? Because it's exciting, and you're picking up new fans. There's fans who loved you from them, but all the time, kids my daughter's age and even younger fall in love with your music.
Thanks,
man. Yeah, long. It's been a long journey, and it's we still kind of like, we show up to do a gig somewhere, and we all check into the hotel, and it is sort of like incredible when we look at each other and we show up for something, and it's like to still have that same feeling, like that excitement, like, oh yeah, we're here, the night before we got a gig tomorrow, or we got whatever happening tomorrow, and it really feels the same way, that it felt in 1999. We've all got different things in our lives that have happened between then and now, and in our daily grind is, I can't even call it a grind. We're still blessed to be living the way we do. And it's just, but that excitement, and that brotherhood is what keeps it together. And it's the glue that a lot of bands don't have. And when you do get that, you just got to be, gracious and appreciate being excited about it. Cause it's, it doesn't feel like a job. And if it ever did, we wouldn't be here doing it anymore.
Yeah. Jeremy?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the love of what we do. It's also a little bit of, if you would have asked us 25 years ago, what we would be doing in 25 years. I mean, we didn't have a backup plan, or, a plan B or a phase 2 or whatever, which, some people might think is not a very smart way to, plan your life, but we've just kept plugging away, and luckily we've just been so blessed that we've had some songs that have withstood the different seasons, and and My Worst Enemy, it just continues to gets played more today on radio than it did 25 years ago when it was a #1 hit, and which is mind-boggling, but yeah, I think it's just, man, we feel good and we love what we do, and I think we probably sound better, and it feels like we're playing better and sounding better than we ever have too. So I think we just keep going because it's still badass,
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's just, isn't it amazing? Let's talk about how the name Lit, when we were, when Lit, back in when you guys originally formed the band, would be a reference to, being lit up, either being high, buzzed. And now Lit is an expression that a lot of young people use for lit. It's cool. It's great. Right. So isn't it amazing how it's still a very important and valid word from generation to generation, even though it takes a different meaning?
What's cool about the meaning now is it's more what we meant by it when we named our band that. And it was more like, isn't this is lit. This is the energy. Isn't it great? This is like something, it was way more describing the energy than it was a bunch of lushes that are, just getting high and not, not caring about what they were doing. But yeah, it's so funny, man. It took over the hashtag. We can't even use it to promote our band. It's like, well, you got to get through all these other lit hashtags. You got to say lit band. And then my brother and I are the other big hashtag, the popping off. So we're pop off. So we got the hashtag, on lock.
It's amazing how that, when you think about that, it's really incredible. Tell me about, for your fans, writing My Own Worst Enemy, which is a song that so many people can relate to. It still is a song that's absolutely relatable for young people and for youth, and for going through different experiences. Tell me about that. I mean, I'm sure even today, when you guys hit the road, people of all different ages, people that were there when the song was topping the charts for weeks, when it was the biggest song in rock and alternative radio. Tell me about that. Like, I mean, do people stop you a lot and talk to you about the songs, the lyrics, and that track in particular sometimes?
It's kind of, the funny thing is we get a lot of, we live in Nashville now. So if you go to Broadway and there's, 5 stories of bands, building after building after building. And if you walk up and down the street, you're going to probably hear a band play it, 2 or 3 times that night. And we've had so many, so many guys in bands thank us. They're always like, man, that song, that's kind of like, we always either close with that one or Don't Stop Believing. But if this crowd's a little bit, if we're losing them, that's kind of like the ripcord. We know if we launch into it, the crowd's going to go crazy. We get videos sent to us probably, 10 times a week of that, people either a cover band doing it or someone singing at karaoke, or it's, in an arena or a stadium for a sports game and the crowd's doing it. And it's fun to watch, man. It's like you almost know what you're going to see when you see the little arrow and somebody sends you a video. You're like, all right. And then every once in a while you'll get one that just blows your mind. But it's I always say that we wrote that song the way we wrote all the other ones, and if we could have figured out what made that one do what it's done, we would have written 100 of them by now. But I think it's it's just it's a timing thing, and it's like a without using all the cheesy cliches, like lightning in a bottle or all these other things. But I just think that when you think of that summer of '99, like it was really and the '90s in general, like what the '90s almost seems like 3 or 4 decades of music. It's like,
yeah,
it's really an incredible decade of music, and really
sure.
kind of the end of such an era of like the MTV, turning on MTV to see what was happening and what was going on, getting, having to get on your bicycle or, getting in your car and you're making, $5 an hour at your job and you're going to go spend 10 on an album or a CD or whatever. Like that it meant something, to people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when people hear that song now, it just reminds them of that time when
It's like a soundtrack era. Really, it's like you relive that decade or two of your life, your childhood, whether it was childhood or high school years, college years. It's like it does take you back to like, I think of the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and the songs that you hear throughout that movie. When I hear those songs, I go right to the scene in the dugout, or like moments, and it's almost like there are songs in the '90s that do that for your real life soundtrack, which I feel like, man, it's been. I hope something like that happens again, where we get another decade where it's just life-altering, waves of music.
It was beautiful because it was a real do-it-yourself decade where there were so many great things coming out at once. It was like one after another. There were so many good bands and so much great music that there was an excitement there, and it was at the center of pop culture because of MTV, and because it was somewhere that everybody could go. It was like a one-to-many situation. But that song, it topped the charts for 11 weeks. It's amazing. And that's a long time. It's great.
Yeah,
and then
blew our minds.
and then, of course, the Miserable video was amazing with Pamela Anderson. And you did that. And of course, she was one of the biggest stars in the world then, and is arguably, she's certainly still a very popular star. But it was amazing that she was in that video, and it was just such a fun thing to see. Do you have great memories of making that?
Man, what a memory. That was crazy. Jared, you could talk about that first.
Well, we had done her TV show VIP, which was her, post Baywatch show, and it started out, they were going to use a couple songs, and it turned into a whole episode that they wrote about us. And so we'd spent the week between Christmas and New Year's, or the week before Christmas, I think, we had spent on the set of her show filming this episode. And then we had one day to make that video before we left for Japan. And I just remember the day when she came into the makeup room and was like, "Hey guys, I'm going to be in your video." And we were like, "Oh boy, here we go." Because we were somewhat winding down. Well, we still had a bunch of, we probably had 6 months left of shows on the books, but we were starting to kind of think about what was going to happen next. And when that thing came out, it exposed us to a different audience. We were doing these shows like Entertainment Tonight and Access Hollywood, and we're hanging out with Pamela Anderson, and and Tommy Lee stopping by, and it's like this crazy thing, and it was on TV all over the world, and it sort of launched our record back into the charts for another year, and so we stayed on tour a whole other year after that because we were trying to keep up with the train. But she was an absolute sweetheart, and she didn't charge us anything to be in our video. It was just like this organic thing that just happened, and we could have never planned that, or probably even dreamed about it. Really, it's just a nature thing.
I mean, it's amazing coming from you guys' home and bedrooms, and your grandfather, and just being around music all your life, and all those things starting to happen, which were great. And it was amazing because you did Woodstock '99, but you toured with Offspring, Garbage, No Doubt. You had all these great tours, and I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of indicative of the vibe it's going to be on the 90s cruise, where everybody was kind of cool and got along. Like there was this great feeling of we're all part of something great that's happening right now. And there was a real excitement, right?
There was. And it was, even shows like TRL, and just in general, I mentioned like Spring Break with MTV and Summer Beach House. You would show up and it was like all genres. Just the songs, the bands that were invited were the ones that were being played in active rotation on MTV. So you would show up and there'd be Eminem and Cisco and Pink and like Mandy Moore. It would just be an eclectic group. And you're right. It would be a lot of those people would end up at the same dinner table, and hanging out in the green room, and just the same smile on their faces, because they're all doing what they always wanted to do, and together with peers. I find that those were peers, at the time, and in the music biz, these big rock stars and celebrities were like, oh, that's cool. We get to hang out with these guys,
It's fantastic, and it's gonna have that vibe. And Jeremy, you did an episode of Cribs too, remember? And
yeah,
was that a lot of fun to do? I mean, again, it put lit right at the forefront as it did, being on TRL and all the other things you guys got involved in.
It was kind of, I think Cribs fell into my lap because I was sort of the first guy in the band to like buy a house, and then everyone else bought them. We had been on tour for 2 years straight, so no one really needed a house just yet. But that was wild, and it ended up being, I think that was like the second. I don't know. I was on the same episode as Snoop Dogg, and that thing reran like thousands of times. It was on like 6 times a day. So I went from kind of getting, I would get recognized at the mall, especially if I was walking by a Hot Topic or something, I had to kind of like do this. But then when Cribs came out, I was getting recognized at the grocery store by, old ladies and people that you would never think would listen to alternative music or whatever. And it was kids hanging out in my driveway, riding skateboards and stuff. It
cool
was
house, man.
It was bananas. But it's pretty cool. All that stuff, when all those cool things were happening, we were just so we were just on the road, we were just playing and we were just doing our thing. And so sometimes I look back and I'm like, man, it would have been cool to maybe just soak that in just a little bit more than we did, because you look back on it now, we're like, wow, we checked some pretty big boxes,
And you don't know that's going away. You don't realize that the importance of MTV, not that it's around forever, it's pop, culture, but thinking that people are always going to have to go there, and that was always going to be the family and the the subscription you needed for your music.
Right, exactly. And it was again, it was an incredible period. And also, I think when those kind of things are happening, you're moving at the speed of sound. Like, you're so busy, and you're just really trying to keep and you guys are great at it. So you just keep on navigating and doing the things you needed to do. And I think at the soul of it, that's one of the things that's because you're just great guys. I knew that. You know what I mean? I think all of us, Carson, everybody that worked at MTV, we knew that you were just great people too, besides making really great music. And you know, back in 2008, when your drummer Alan Schellenberger, was had brain cancer. I mean, that was a lot for you guys to go through, and I know you did a lot of really really cool and important charity things and concerts. And I just again, getting through those periods of people you loved and you started in the band with. I mean, that's a lot to deal with. Can we talk about that and how you guys navigated through that? Because to lose somebody that you love, that's your brother. I mean, and then can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it was definitely, first and foremost, just devastating as a brother, because he was a guy that we grew up with. He was a guy that was just a family first, and he, we sort of had been devoting most of our time kind of just being there for him, and we had a tour. We were supposed to go on the road with Kiss in Europe when all that went down, and I don't think we really thought about what we were going to do next with the band. I think we were thinking about what was going to be next with him, and what we could do, if there was anything we could do, and all that. So we went through that period, and then but Al was just a guy that it's cliche, and everybody sort of says this when they lose somebody, but Al for sure would have been really, really pissed if we hadn't have carried on and kept going and doing, because he would have been like, dude, I didn't spend all these years of my life building this thing so you guys could shut it down, like don't worry about me, I'm good, just keep going, and
Yeah.
and I think we took we probably took a couple months to sort of
Decide, if we were going to
figure
go
out
forward.
how we were feeling about things, and then his drum tech Nathan, who was in the room with us when Al passed, he was family as well, and he just hopped in the seat, and it was very always respectful. Same with Taylor, our drummer now. They're always very respectful with his parts and his style of drumming, and which is always great, because I mean, honestly, and it sounds crazy, but we play today, and it always feels like Al's there. Because we don't have some guy taking his place who's trying to overshadow him or outplay him or put his own spin on things. It's very much him behind us every night, which is pretty awesome.
It's great. And you guys did that benefit concert at House of Blues in Anaheim, and you got, I mean, you paid so much great respect to him, and also you had to go through those periods of grief. But you're right, he would have wanted you guys to continue on. You guys didn't start as kids and be friends for him wanting that. That's what he would certainly want, because he obviously loved you guys in a big way. And as we went through the records, the self-titled, which was I mean, I love that. But View from the Bottom, let's talk about that next record, because that was really cool too, and there were a lot of great songs on there. Sorry, Vegas, I'm coughing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, that was sort of one of the first records I feel like coming out of, some of that downtime and really just introspective and sort of changing the way we wrote a little bit, and a little kind of digging a little deeper. And so it was for the most part, a little more serious than previous records. We tapped into some of the darker sides of us. But at the same time, just big rock, we weren't trying to be anything new or different. We were just kind of going with where that inspiration was taking us. And I think it turned out to be one of our best records. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say commercially, it's one of those records a lit fan throws on, and we get comments all the time how that's like their favorite record. And I think because maybe it's a little more to digest, and they like that, taking that journey and really like diving into every single track of a record. And so I think that's what we really achieved with it, was just a little more focus, and it wasn't all about party time. It was like, okay, this is real too.
Yeah, and I mean, you went through serious things to think about, and so it showed all different side of you guys. But a great record nonetheless.
Thank you, man.
And it doesn't really matter that it, if it wasn't usually commercial, because I mean, it was what you were feeling and doing and going through at the time. So I thought that was great. You know what
Appreciate
I mean?
it, man. Appreciate that.
And like back in 2015 when you guys did Well, and I should mention Marty Fredrickson, who you worked with on the stuff on the record there. Great guy, does Four Horsemen. He's still writing great songs, and
yeah,
you know,
we love Marty.
Yeah, such a good dude. In fact, we had dinner with Scott Stevens like 2 nights ago. His wife, my girlfriend and I. So it's all the dudes from all that area. You know what I mean? And from the Four Horsemen, they're such good people. Zach and everybody. But I love that. I thought it was cool that you guys ended up working with him. Let's talk about moving to Nashville too, because it's wild. Because when These Are the Days and everything came out, and Fast was played on CMT, and it like rose to the top of that countdown. I thought that was cool. You guys predate a lot of other people that have kind of, there's something happening obviously now with Jelly Roll, with Hardy, with Tim Montana, and there's going to be more stuff that is going to.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah, people that are going and working and looking into kind of the crossover thing. And I think it's a cool kind of natural thing for people to do. But you guys were there even much earlier. So can we talk about that?
Well, we have been coming to Nashville for a long time and write country music and stuff and love country music. And we had a batch of songs that we had been working on, and we really we thought they were great songs, and we were like, man, what would it sound like if because we wrote them, with some other great writers in town, but we were like, what, we could just demo these up and turn them into our publisher and have them pitched around for other artists or whatever, but what would it sound like if we did these? And we just loved it. And, I think the day that record came out, we were like, oh man, maybe we should have called it something else. Is this going to be confusing for people? But I think we kind of felt like, hey man, our fans know, like, we're spending a lot of time out there. We're doing some different stuff. And so it was confusing to some people, I think. But I think it's a great record. I think if you like country music,
I think, and before some of the artists that are doing it now, there was, one of our favorite artists and songwriters is Elvis Costello, and that's an artist that, he'd put out a record, with Burt Bacharach, and just stylistically whatever he was feeling, and if he was into something at the time, he'd collaborate and he would, put out a record. And I always thought that was cool to be, if you're an artist and a music fan, to allow yourself to explore other genres and explore, what your musical taste is, and just let yourself be free to do that. And I think it's cool to see music fans like letting loose a little bit more and allowing the artists they're fans of to have that wiggle room and that freedom.
I think it's great. I mean, Elvis Costello, perfect example, like you said, late 1970s, when he came out, and then when he did that record with, Good Year for the Roses, and of course, Stranger in the House, the song that, he wrote that George Jones did with him. And, that stuff is so cool. I'm also a huge fan of Elvis's. I love him.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great. It was the same way back then when Joe Jackson would do like a big band record, you know what I mean? Or a jazz record. It was cool. You wanted to let the artists that you love, all the way back to guys like Neil Young. If he wants to make an electronic record, that's great. You know what I mean? Whatever you feel like doing. I think
it also turns their fans, it like exposes their fans to a genre of music they may have never listened to. They might be like opening up a new, avenue for them to go, oh, I thought I hate country music. Well, I'm going to dive into it a little bit and see what they saw in it, and that's cool. That's what it should be about.
Yeah, 100%.
Those were good examples that you mentioned, and all great songwriters, and all, there's like this alt rock country movement that's happening right now, and it's awesome. And one of the things that turned us on to country music, in the mid, like 2005, 2006, when we started really getting into it and writing it, at that time, rock was going through a little bit of a lull around that time. There wasn't a lot of guitars. There wasn't a lot of, it was an interesting period. And it was sort of like, if you want to hear an electric guitar and a guy singing about like having a good time or hanging out with a girl or, whatever, like it was,
or broken heart, right? Yeah.
Totally.
and so it's taken a while for the gatekeepers I think some of the gatekeepers must have passed away or something, because all these dudes, all these knuckleheads are getting in and stirring things up. And I think it's for the greater good of country music and for rock and roll, you know, for guys like Hardy and Jelly Roll to be doing what they're doing is just awesome to watch, you know?
Yeah, it makes me really happy, and I love it. And I think you even touched on, you know, the Americana stuff that, you know, whether it's, you know, guys like Wilco or Jason Isbell, like there's all these people that are, you know, they're paying tribute to, you know, a lot of different, so there's like all the different sides of it. But I love the fact that these artists are doing that stuff, and because there's great music in every genre, you got to find it. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
oh, right. I think, you know, there's something you can find, and you guys did it. Like I said, you did it early, and I love that you did. You know, and talk to me about Tastes Like Gold, because when that record came out, it was really cool. You guys were also, you know, going on the road with your old friends, Bowling for Soup, and I mean, you've done some really great tours and made so many friends along the way. Tell me about that time and making that record a couple of years ago, because you made that record basically during the kind of on like as the pandemic was winding down, but it was also you had to spend a lot of time, of course, you know, at home. So talk to me about how that record was born.
I mean, that was, we did really the whole
Pandemic
record
record.
during COVID, you know? And we, you know, in a way, it made it a little easier. It was kind of more difficult and easier at the same time, because everybody was, no one had really jobs for, you know, a couple years there.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a lot of time to not a lot of distractions other than really negative stuff that if on the TV and stuff. And the world was coming to an end, and all of a sudden we knew we didn't want to write songs about that. And so I think we all just sort of like try to put ourselves back in that late 90s, early 2000s mindset. And we changed the playlist we were listening to at home, you know, through the Sonos cranked up, or we're listening to stuff we were listening to back then, and just trying to just like unplug the last, you know, several years and just go back to a simpler time, write simpler songs, and just go back to that original, that A Place in the Sun, Atomic era Lit. And you know, we co-wrote with some, you know, great dudes here, and the guys that produced it grew up Lit fans. And that was kind of what we told them. We're like, hey man, you know, you guys grew up on us. So if you were listening and, you know, listening to the radio and Matt Pinfield says, here's a new one from Lit, what does it sound like? You know, like, and we went after that. Like we,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
It was 1999 reimagined.
Yeah, you know, that's the beauty of what's great too about the cruise. This 90s cruise, I think what's so important about it is brings people back to a time when things were going really unbelievably well. There wasn't as much division, and music always unites and brings people together. There are so many good times. If you grew up in that time, or you're even younger and you fell in love with that music because you just know how inspired it was. It was such a great creative time. And people were open to so many different things, which is why I think this cruise is going to be amazing, and we're going to have such a great time on it. Because like you said, rather than wallow in all the negativity, let's have a positive, great experience and celebrate life and celebrate music, you know?
For sure.
Absolutely.
And you're at sea, so you're literally you're on a boat with all these people that, you know, either lived it or want to live it. They're all together. You're sort of like, it's a captive crowd of positivity, you know, and just that vibe. I mean, and having guys like you around on that same ship just sort of solidifies like, oh yeah, the memories just all come back, and you literally are going to go right back to that place, you know, and you look exactly the same. So that helps.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so excited. Yeah. You guys look fantastic.
You actually look better because you lost a bunch of weight. Look at you, you're all healthy.
Yeah,
Congrats
man.
on all that.
Yeah. I definitely I feel good about that, you know, because I want to live a long time. And man, it's so great to actually look back and be able to celebrate all those great, incredible times and that era of music, which is, you know, it still holds up. It's finding an audience all the time, new young people that love the songs and love the artists like you. It's you know, there's so much stuff there that was timeless. And
we've been noticing that really throughout the years. You know, obviously we fans, and they have kids, they bring their kids to the shows, and now they're grown up and now they have kids, and it's wild to think, but we see kids in the road, you know, 14-year-old kids in the front singing all the words, and it's almost like whoa, this is a snapshot from 25 years ago. It's awesome to see new generations of fans getting into the stuff, and I think there'll be some on the cruise too. I know probably there's a lot of people, bringing their families for a vacation on this thing, and it's always great too. These cruises are, I mean, like AJ said, you're captive at sea. You get off a couple times and go hang out in a couple of little towns, but you're just it's kind of like a 5-day meet and greet, and a lot of times by the end of it, you're giving hugs on the way out. I love you, man. It's like you've known forever, and you've literally just been at like this little vacation camp for the last 4 days, and it's a pretty cool thing, I think, for the fans. We're fans of so many of these bands too, so it's kind of like the ultimate fan experience, really.
It really is. I think I couldn't be more excited. I know that down to Julie Brown and Lisa Loeb, we're all like excited to host. It's going to be amazing. I love them. First of all, I love you guys, and there's all our friends on this cruise, like Collective Soul and Gin Blossoms and Everclear. It's going to be, what a great time we're going to have with everybody who's playing. And I also want to bring up, guys, one of the cool things was when you guys exploded in '99, your songs were used in a lot of great movies that people still love. But when you think about everything like Replacements, Little Nicky, right? And American Pie 2, Orange County, all these movies, Mr. Deeds, like throughout the years had used your songs. And I know you guys have had a lot of like that through the years placement, like where people, because again, those songs mean so much to people that you've written and performed. Is that a great feeling when you go back, and if you, as adults now with children and knowing, new young friends, do you show them and all of a sudden they realize, wow, those songs are in those films?
It was, you forget I mean, like I mentioned Fast Times, like what a big deal soundtracks meant, what it was to us growing up. And totally. Sometimes I forget that our song is in certain movies, and we'll just be watching movies on Netflix, whatever, and older movies, and I'll be like, all of a sudden our song come on, I'm like, oh man, I forgot we had placement in this movie, and it just does like kind of a different. It's totally different than hearing your song on the radio, because you got the visual and you got that, it's soundtrack world is a cool thing to be a part of. I love it.
Well, there was a lot of movies too that, we lived on a tour bus. We had 300 channels of satellite TV, but you weren't getting any current movies. It's not like now where a movie comes out and it goes straight to Hulu or Netflix or whatever. And so we didn't have really a lot of time to go to the movies in those days. So yeah, what AJ just said is like literally 10 years later, 15 years later, like, HBO's on in the background and you're just doing stuff around the house and you're like, oh wait, like what's that? Oh, it's an Adam Sandler movie. That's cool.
Or that new series that I think that 70s show. Now they have that 90s show, and they used our music for the trailer on that. And I was like, that's perfect. I'll take that. We came out in '99, so I'm so happy we got to be part of the '90s.
Oh, absolutely, which was great. I mean, you guys, and then so important into 2000s too, which is great. So, but the '90s, you were big part of the '90s, because that decade was an unbelievable, creative burst of great artists and the possibilities of everything. It was just, and right now, because, people really want to, like, that's why this cruise is so important, and the opportunity to see a lot of great music and hang out with friends and enjoy, the records that we grew up on, or you, in your case, that you guys made, for me, I think it's going to be just one of those great experiences all the way around, because it's a great lineup. You know what I mean? It's going to be really cool.
Oh, great.
I feel. Now, Ziploc, before we go too, guys, I got to talk to you about Ziploc, because that was such a cool video too. And you guys ended up having Dee Snider in there and Blink-182 in your video. And so, which was cool, because it really kind of says to me what Lit is about, which is like there's so much different music that inspires you guys and inspired you as growing up in Orange County as kids, from everything from like the OC punk rock scene to hard rock, metal, hair metal, all those different things. It was like you guys were sponges for music. You just loved good stuff. And in your case, we talk about country. And even if there was great pop, those were the things that you took in. So tell me a bit about, was that a fun experience to make that video? And how did that end up happening where Blink were in it and Dee Snider?
Well, we were on the Warped Tour, and we had one day at home, and we made that video that day. So a lot of the people, there was some extras in it, and then a bunch of our friends in it as well. And we rented this, you know, this house in the Hollywood Hills that I guess they used to film a lot of porn at, and it was just the quintessential Hollywood Hills, like, you know, party house. And we just, what you see is what you get. It was a 1-day deal. Blink was on the Warped Tour then with us, and so we hit them up like, hey man, want to be in our video and run through naked? We'll send a limo to pick you guys up. They're like, yeah, let's do it. And the D thing was just, we just wrote it in the treatment, you know, because we wrote the treatment for that video ourselves. And it just said, we're going to reenact the Twisted Sister opening of the video for I Want to Rock. But D. Snyder's going to play the part of the dad. We didn't know D. We didn't even know, like, if anyone knew him or how to get a hold of him, but we just wrote that in there, and then it happened. So it's like,
yeah.
And D's awesome. He's a great friend, and we got to become good friends on a set of that. And over the years, spent a lot of time with them. But it just kind of goes to show you, like, with him and with Pamela Anderson and with, like, a lot of the stuff, it's like, I guess, you know, you'll never know if you don't ask for it, right? If you don't put it in there, it's like manifesting, you know?
Yeah, manifesting. Exactly.
Yeah,
and D's the best. He's such a great guy, man. I love D. His spirit. Yeah. He's got so much energy and just like a good dude. And, you know, and there's so much about, you know, people didn't realize how many years Twisted Sister had worked before they actually got their record. Those guys have been around Northeast, where I'm from, because I'm from Jersey, and, you know, the New York scene. I know those guys since I was like a teenager, you know. Wow. So it's really cool that he and I became friends after all those years, and he's friends with you guys. So I love that. I just think it's great all the way around. Is it exciting? Like, you know, before I let you guys go, what are one of the things you love to do, like on the cruises? Because I know it's just like we're gonna have some fun. I mean, there's gonna be all kinds of theme nights. There'll be karaoke. I'm sure we'll do some music quiz with the people, and, like, of course, you know, I'll interview you guys on the boat and do some fun things, and we'll just make it fun, because I like to, you know, I love to make it a good time, and I know you guys do too. And that's one of the things you guys give with your live performances. You know, we want people to have the best time possible. You know what I mean? And really enjoy themselves. What do you guys think?
I love that it's nonstop. The itineraries, like, there's just always something to do. It's like people are definitely going to want to go take a nap here and there, be like, oh, I'm going to get a power nap. And then they're going to wake up going, oh crap, I'm missing this and this and this. There's always something to do, which I love. On those type of deals. But this is going to
see, we're stopping in Cozumel. On that one?
That place where we went off into that private beach area?
Yeah, there's well, anyway, yeah. One of the stops, we know a great little spot. It's off the beaten path, but, you know, you go through that little,
so good,
that gauntlet of tourism, you know, mall stuff, and you break through that and you hop in a thing and you go to this little private beach, and with great food and great service and all that. So we'll do that one day. We'll turn everybody onto the secret spot. But otherwise, yeah, man, there's from the time you wake up till the time you crash out, there's just something happening, something going on. That's why all the bands play, you know, 3 times, because it's like, you know, you may miss 1 or 2 of the times because you're over here, you're, you know, doing all it's a lot, but it's awesome.
Yeah, there's so much to do, which is a great thing, you know. People definitely get their money's worth, and you get a great time. I mean, what better period of music? I think it's going to be a really, really amazing time. Well, guys, it's been so great catching up with you, and I can't wait to hang and spend time with you guys on the 90s cruise. I'm so pumped about it. We are going to have the best time ever with all those incredible artists. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it.
So are we, man. Count the days down.
Yeah, it's going to be great. AJ,
I'll make a recommendation to anybody that's hasn't booked their stuff yet, but get the drink package and get a case of water delivered to your room before you get on the boat, because I promise you that's the one thing that's the easiest to forget about is the water. And when you crawl back into your cabin at like 2 a.m, you'll be glad I listened to Popoff, got that box of water in there.
That's a great idea. That's fantastic. That's great. You see, those are the things you look forward to, you know, and it's going to be fun. And we're going to go out when we get off the boat. We're gonna go check out that beach and get some food at that private beach you were talking about.
Yeah, man. Let's do
We
it.
do massagers there for like $20 or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
It's gonna be amazing, guys. Much love to you. It's great catching up with you guys.
Love you, brother. Miss
Much
you.
love back, brother.
Love you guys. It was so
Love you
good
too,
to
man.
see you, man. I'm telling you. AJ, Jeremy,
Likewise.
thanks so much for doing this. And I'll be
Thanks,
seeing
man.
you soon in January. We're gonna
Yeah.
rock.
All
Okay.
right,
Dude,
man.
great talking with you, brother.
All right. Thank you
See you
so
soon.
much, guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
The 90s Cruise. If you have not bought your tickets or reserved your cabins yet, it's time to do it now. It's going to be incredible. We are going to have so much fun. Man, I can't believe it's going to be, you will not regret it. Come hang out with us. And I want to thank AJ and Jeremy from Lit for spending time with us today. I'll see you on the 90s Cruise.
Let's go.
That's great. That's great.